The text from Dad arrived on November 25th. And no failures at Christmas dinner. Your presence would make everyone uncomfortable. Maybe next year when you've made something of yourself. I stared at my phone in my real office, the entire top floor of Morgan International's headquarters, watching the winter snow fall on the city I largely owned. On the screens behind me, stock tickers showed my company's latest acquisitions. My assistant Catherine's voice came through the intercom. Ms. Morgan, the property acquisitions are complete. We now own all 5 of your family members' mansions through various subsidiaries. Perfect timing, I smiled, remembering last Christmas when my sister Amanda had mockingly offered to help me find an apartment more suited to my means. Should I prepare the eviction notices? Catherine asked. Not yet. Let's wait for Christmas morning. Nothing says holiday cheer like a foreclosure. My phone buzzed again, Mom this time. Darling, you understand why we can't have you at dinner. Amanda's new CEO friends will be there. We can't have them knowing about your situation. My situation being the fact that I secretly owned their mortgage companies, investment firms, and now their homes. All while letting them think I ran a struggling small business. Catherine entered with more papers. The final property evaluations are in. Your family's combined real estate is worth approximately $47 million. And how much did we pay? Due to their hidden financial troubles? Less than half that. She smiled. They were so desperate for quick cash they never checked who was really buying. My phone lit up with photos from Amanda. Her mansion's Christmas decorations, her new car, her designer holiday outfit. All paid for with loans from banks I quietly controlled. Status report on their finances? I asked Catherine. Your brother Thomas's hedge fund is underwater. Amanda's tech company is bleeding money. Your younger sister Patricia's luxury retail chain is 3 months from bankruptcy. She paused. None of them can actually afford their lifestyles. And they have no idea their mysterious new landlord is their failure sister? None. The properties were purchased through shell companies. Even their lawyers don't know you're behind it. I stood walking to the window of my empire. Below, holiday shoppers hurried past buildings I owned, carrying bags from stores I controlled, their purchases financed by my banks. Send the eviction notices on Christmas morning, I decided. 9 a.m. sharp when they're opening presents. That's rather cold, Catherine observed. Colder than being banned from Christmas? Than having my family mock my failed business while I secretly built an empire. I turned back to my desk. Besides, I'm giving them a gift, a lesson in humility. My phone buzzed with another family text, the group chat this time. Amanda, wait until you see my mansion's Christmas lights. Thomas, my new car collection looks perfect in the snow. Patricia, the holiday party at my estate will be amazing. Mom, so sorry you can't join us, dear. Maybe when you're more established. I typed back, enjoy your homes while you can. Consider it your last Christmas in them. They probably thought I was bitter. They'd learn soon enough. Catherine, I called as she headed out. Make sure the eviction notices mention their new landlord will be hosting a New Year's party. At my real mansion, the one 3 times bigger than all of theirs combined. Should I include your name? No. Let them show up and see for themselves. I smiled, imagining their faces when they realized their failure sister owned not just their homes but their futures. Outside, the snow fell harder, coating the city that would soon witness the greatest Christmas surprise since Scrooge. But unlike Scrooge, I wasn't learning about kindness. I was teaching a lesson about consequences. December 24th arrived with a flurry of social media posts from my family, each one documenting their last Christmas Eve in homes they didn't know they were about to lose. Another perfect Christmas in our dream home. Amanda posted, showcasing her mansion's grand staircase draped in designer garlands. Holiday party at the estate. Thomas shared his new cars gleaming in the circular driveway. Christmas Eve in paradise. Patricia's post showed her indoor pool decorated with floating ornaments. I watched their displays of wealth from my office command center, where multiple screens tracked the complex web of their financial disasters. Catherine had prepared detailed reports on each family member's situation. Amanda Morgan Pierce. *3 mortgages on the mansion all through my banks. *tech company hemorrhaging $2 million per month. *personal credit cards maxed out. Asterisk investment portfolio, managed by my firm, down 60%. Asterisk designer wardrobe bought with embezzled company funds. Thomas Morgan. Asterisk hedge fund facing SEC investigation. Asterisk car collection financed through fraudulent loans. Asterisk property taxes 3 months overdue. Asterisk children's private school tuition unpaid. Asterisk gambling debts at my casinos mounting. Patricia Morgan. Asterisk retail chain facing bankruptcy. Asterisk mansion maintenance costs exceeding income. Asterisk staff payroll bouncing. Asterisk personal shopping addiction draining accounts. Asterisk tax liens pending on all properties. The eviction notices are ready, Catherine reported, bringing in the final documents. All properly filed through different law firms to maintain the illusion of separate owners. I reviewed the papers, each one a masterpiece of legal precision. And the timing? Synchronized delivery at 9 a.m. tomorrow. All 5 properties simultaneously. She pulled up the security feeds showing the delivery services preparing for morning rounds. They won't know what hit them. My phone buzzed with yet another family text. Mom sharing photos of the Christmas Eve dinner I wasn't welcome to attend. Crystal glasses sparkled, silver gleamed, and my siblings posed in designer outfits they couldn't afford. Your father and I wish you could understand why we do this, Mom's private message read. Success requires certain standards. I smiled, remembering the meeting earlier that day where my board had approved the acquisition of Dad's company, a hostile takeover he wouldn't discover until the new year. Speaking of standards, Catherine interjected, the audit reports came back on their businesses. Would you like to see how your siblings have been managing their enterprises? The reports told a story of staggering incompetence. Amanda's tech company had been faking user numbers, inflating revenue reports and misappropriating investor funds. Her mansion's third mortgage had been obtained with falsified income documents. Thomas's hedge fund had lost millions in risky trades, covered up by creative accounting and outright fraud. His car collection was funded by stealing from client accounts. Patricia's retail chain was a house of cards, with inventory numbers manipulated, vendor payments missed, and company funds used for personal shopping sprees. They've done quite a job destroying Dad's legacy, I observed, scanning the numbers. No wonder their properties were so easy to acquire. The real estate agents were practically begging us to take the mortgages, Catherine confirmed, though they still don't know all the properties have the same owner. My phone lit up again. Amanda sharing a video of her children in front of their massive Christmas tree. So blessed to give our kids the perfect Christmas in our forever home. Forever home. The irony was delicious. The moving companies are on standby, Catherine reported. As requested, they'll arrive an hour after the eviction notices. All 5 properties simultaneously. And the New Year's party invitations? Sent through the property management firms. Very elegant, very mysterious. They'll never suspect their failure sister is the host until they arrive. I stood walking to my office windows. The city sparkled with Christmas lights, many of them on buildings I owned. Tomorrow my family would learn that their perfect Christmas was their last in homes that were now mine. Should I have security ready for tomorrow? Catherine asked. They might not take the news well. Have teams at each property, I confirmed, but tell them to be discreet. I want videos of their reactions, not a scene. My phone buzzed one final time, Dad's message to the family group. Proud to have such successful children celebrating in their beautiful homes. A perfect Morgan family Christmas. I typed back, enjoy your celebrations. Tomorrow brings changes none of you will see coming. That's rather ominous, Catherine observed. Consider it a preview. I smiled, picking up the eviction notices. Tomorrow they learn what real success looks like. Outside, snow began to fall on the city that had watched me build my empire in secret. In their mansions, my family celebrated their last night of artificial success, unaware that their failure sister now owned every brick of their perfect worlds. The best Christmas gifts, after all, are the ones you never see coming. Christmas morning dawned bright and cold. I sat in my command center, multiple screens showing live security feeds from all 5 family properties. Catherine had synchronized everything perfectly. 8:59 a.m. My family gathered in their various mansions, unaware of what was coming. Amanda's children racing down the grand staircase to their presents. Thomas photographing his car collection in the morning light. Patricia arranging designer gifts under her tree. Mom and dad hosting breakfast in their estate's dining room. 9 a.m. Right on schedule, couriers approached each door simultaneously. Delivery teams in position, Catherine reported. All properties covered. Security standing by. The first reaction came from Amanda's mansion. The security feed showed her face draining of color as she read the eviction notice, her perfect Christmas morning shattering. This has to be a mistake, her voice carried through the feed. We own this house. Actually, her husband read from the document, Morgan Global Holdings owns it. They've owned it for weeks. My phone erupted. Amanda, emergency. Someone's claiming they own our house. Thomas, just got served papers. This can't be legal. Patricia, mansion's being foreclosed on Christmas? Mom, Richard, call the lawyers now. 9:15 a.m. Right on cue, moving trucks pulled up to each property. Your timing is masterful, Catherine observed as we watched the chaos unfold across multiple screens. Thomas was having a meltdown in his garage, clutching the eviction notice while staring at his soon-to-be repossessed car collection. These vehicles are mine. Patricia had collapsed onto her designer sofa, mascara running. But I just renovated the pool house. The best feed was from my parents' estate. Dad was on the phone with his lawyers, his face growing increasingly pale as they confirmed the legitimacy of the eviction. The properties were all legally acquired, his lawyer explained. Through different companies but all owned by Morgan Global Holdings. Who the hell is Morgan Global Holdings? Dad demanded. I picked up my phone, typing into the family group chat. Maybe you should have invited your failure daughter to Christmas after all. Silence across all feeds. Then explosion. Amanda, what are you talking about? Thomas, this is impossible. Patricia, you can't afford a studio apartment. Mom, Emily, what have you done? I sent them each a document, proof of ownership for their properties, now bearing my signature as CEO of Morgan Global Holdings. Security reports they're all trying to access their accounts, Catherine updated me. Finding them frozen. Time for phase 2, I decided. Send in the audit teams. 10 a.m. As my family reeled from the evictions, teams of auditors arrived at each of their businesses. Amanda's tech company discovered their accounts frozen. Thomas's hedge fund clients received notices of investigation. Patricia's retail chain stores were served with bankruptcy papers. My phone kept buzzing. Amanda, my company accounts are locked. Thomas, the SEC is here? On Christmas. Patricia, all my stores are shutting down. Mom, please let's talk about this. I typed back. Remember last Christmas when you said I'd never understand real success? Check your new landlord's Forbes profile. Catherine brought in the latest financial reports. Their empires are falling exactly as planned. Would you like to see the real-time wealth transfers? On the screens, graphs showed their assets plummeting while Morgan Global Holdings' value soared. Everything they thought they owned was now mine. 11 a.m., the final blow landed. Every family member received an invitation. Morgan Global Holdings cordially invites you to a New Year's Eve celebration. At the Morgan estate. Black tie required. Attendance mandatory for all current tenants. The Morgan estate? Dad's voice cracked through the security feed. But that's your company's former headquarters, I finished typing into the chat. The building you said I'd never be successful enough to enter. I bought it last month. Catherine appeared with more updates. The moving teams are beginning to pack their houses. Should I have their belongings sent to my property's servant quarters? I decided. They can stay there until they learn some humility and basic business competence. Noon. Christmas lunch found my family in various stages of breakdown. Amanda crying in her soon-to-be former kitchen. Thomas drinking in his soon-to-be empty garage. Patricia having a panic attack by her soon-to-be drained pool. Parents stunned silent in their soon-to-be lost dining room. My phone buzzed one final time, a private message from Dad. How did we not see this coming? I replied, too busy mocking my failures to notice my success. By the way, Merry Christmas. Consider this your gift, a lesson in real business acumen. Catherine brought in champagne. The properties will be fully vacant by dinner. Would you like to tour your new acquisitions? No need. I smiled, watching my family's perfect worlds crumble across multiple screens. I'll see them all at the New Year's party. In my mansion. The one that makes theirs look like guest houses. Outside, Christmas continued in the city I owned, while inside their soon-to-be former homes, my family learned the true meaning of success and failure. Sometimes the best gifts aren't under the tree. Sometimes they're served in legal documents, delivered at 9 a.m. on Christmas morning. As evening fell, Catherine brought in the final reports of the day. Amanda's tech company board has called an emergency meeting for tomorrow. They've discovered her creative accounting. Thomas's hedge fund clients are demanding immediate audits. Several have already filed lawsuits. Patricia's retail chain suppliers are freezing deliveries due to bounced payments. And your parents' social circle is buzzing about their sudden, financial restructuring. My phone had finally stopped buzzing, replaced by a deafening silence from my family. The security feeds showed them all packing, their designer Christmas decorations being carefully removed by moving teams. Should I have their things placed in storage instead of the servant quarters? Catherine asked. No. Let them experience life without their luxuries. I watched Amanda carefully wrapping her crystal collection. Besides, the servant quarters of my estate are still larger than my first apartment, the one they mocked as embarrassingly small. A final message arrived from Mom. We never meant to hurt you. We thought we were motivating you to succeed. I replied, Congratulations. Your plan worked perfectly. See you at New Year's in my mansion, wearing the clothes I allow you to keep, celebrating my success. Catherine appeared with one last update. The business news channels want statements about the Morgan family properties changing hands. Should I release the full story? Not yet. Let them discover it at the party. I smiled, watching the moving trucks pull away from my newly acquired mansions. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's making them watch that success up close from the servant quarters of your estate. As Christmas night fell, 5 moving trucks carried my family's possessions to their new, humbler accommodations. In my office, screens showed their empty mansions, their failed businesses, and their shattered illusions of success. Next Christmas, they'd know better than to ban family members from dinner. Assuming, of course, they earned back the right to attend. After all, as their eviction notices stated, success isn't inherited, it's earned. And I had earned every bit of mine.
I stared at my father across my desk, barely recognizing the man who had abandoned our family 15 years ago. His expensive suit couldn't hide the desperation in his eyes as he leaned forward, his voice a mixture of entitlement and charm that I remembered all too well. Come on, Emily, he said, spreading his hands in what he probably thought was a disarming gesture. I'm your father. Everything you have, all this success, you wouldn't be here without me. Don't I deserve to share in it? My name is Emily Chen, and at 35, I'm the CEO of Chen Tech Innovations, a company I built from nothing into a $10 million enterprise. The irony of my father showing up now, after years of silence, wasn't lost on me. He had walked out when I was 20, leaving my mother and me with nothing but debt and broken promises. Share in it. I repeated, keeping my voice steady despite the anger bubbling beneath the surface. Like you shared in our struggles after you left, like you shared in Mom's medical bills when she got sick. He had the decency to look uncomfortable, but only for a moment. The past is the past, Emily. I've changed. I've learned from my mistakes. And now, he gestured at my office, the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Seattle skyline. Now look at you. You've done so well for yourself. Surely you can spare something for your old man? I studied him carefully, noting the designer watch that probably cost more than our old monthly rent, the manicured nails, the perfectly styled hair. He looked successful, but I knew better. My private investigator had been thorough. Dad's gambling habits hadn't changed, just the stakes. He'd burned through his third wife's inheritance, and rumor had it he owed money to some dangerous people. Why now? I asked, though I already knew the answer. 15 years, Dad. Not a single call, not even when Mom died. He flinched at that, but recovered quickly. I wasn't in a good place then, Emily. I couldn't face you both after everything. But I've been following your success in the news. Chentech's breakthrough in renewable energy storage, The government contracts, the Forbes feature. He leaned forward, his eyes gleaming. I'm proud of you, sweetheart. The words I'd once longed to hear now felt hollow, tainted by the desperation behind them. I thought about all the nights I'd spent working multiple jobs while putting myself through engineering school. About Mom working herself to exhaustion at the diner to help with my tuition until her health gave out. Those early days of Chentech, operating out of my tiny apartment, living on ramen and coffee while I refined my energy storage prototypes. Where was he then? When I nearly lost everything to a patent lawsuit from a bigger company, where was his pride and support? How much? I asked quietly. His eyes lit up. Well, considering everything, I think half would be fair. I cut him off with a laugh. Half? Of Chentech? You think you deserve half of what I built? I'm your father, he said, his tone hardening. Everything you are, you got from me. That brilliant mind of yours? Those are my genes. Your determination? I taught you that. I stood up, walking to the window. Seattle's autumn rain traced patterns on the glass, and I thought about another rainy day 15 years ago when he'd walked out our door for the last time. You know what I got from you, Dad? I turned back to face him. I learned how to spot manipulation. I learned that people will say anything when they want something from you, and I learned that blood doesn't mean loyalty. He stood up, his facade cracking. Now listen here. No, you listen, I said, my voice steel. You want money? Fine. Come back tomorrow at noon. I'll have something for you. His anger melted into a grin. I knew you'd understand, sweetheart. You always were my clever girl. As I watched him leave, I thought about the envelope I would prepare for him. He had no idea what was coming, but for the first time in 15 years, I was actually glad to see him. Because tomorrow he would learn exactly what kind of clever girl he helped create. That evening, as I sat in my penthouse reviewing the documents my lawyer had prepared, my phone buzzed. It was Alice, my best friend since college and now Chentech's chief legal officer. Tell me you're not really giving him anything, she said without preamble. I smiled, though she couldn't see it. Trust me, Alice. I know exactly what I'm doing. Emily, I've seen this before. He's just going to take whatever you give him and come back for more. Men like that, they're never satisfied. I know, I said, looking at the papers spread across my coffee table. That's counting on. After hanging up, I walked to my home office, unlocking the bottom drawer of my desk. Inside was a worn shoebox filled with newspaper clippings, old photos, and documents I collected over the years. Every article about my father's failed businesses, every court record of his divorces, every piece of evidence of his schemes and betrayals, I had them all. Some might call it obsessive, keeping such detailed records. But I learned early on that information was power, and I never wanted to be powerless again. I pulled out a particular photo, my college graduation. Mom was there, thin and tired from her first round of chemo, but smiling so proudly. We'd sent Dad an invitation, more out of obligation than hope. He didn't come, of course, but he did send a text. Sorry, kiddo, tight on cash right now. Maybe next time. 2 weeks later, I saw him in the society pages at a charity gala with his second wife. The memory still stung, but now it just strengthened my resolve. Tomorrow would change everything, but not in the way he expected. I stayed up late into the night, making sure every detail was perfect. The documents had to be ironclad, the timing precise. By the time I finally went to bed, the rain had stopped and a strange calm had settled over me. For 15 years, I carried the weight of his abandonment, the anger, the hurt, the questions of why I wasn't enough for him to stay. Tomorrow, I would finally set that burden down. But first, I had to spring the trap he'd walked right into. The next morning, I arrived at the office early. My assistant James was already there, organizing the day's schedule. Your father's appointment is confirmed for noon, he said, his tone carefully neutral. James had been with me since the early days of Chentech. He knew enough about my past to understand the significance of this meeting. Perfect, I said, heading into my office. Make sure security is ready, but discreet, and have Alice come up as soon as she arrives. The morning passed in a blur of meetings and calls, but my mind kept drifting to the envelope sitting in my desk drawer. Inside was everything my father thought he wanted, and everything he didn't expect. At 11:55, my phone buzzed. He's here, James texted. I took a deep breath, straightened my jacket, and prepared myself for what would likely be the last conversation I'd ever have with my father. Right on cue, he strutted into my office, somehow looking even more confident than yesterday. The smile on his face reminded me of a shark that had spotted its prey. If only he knew who the real predator was. "Emily, sweetheart," he said, spreading his arms like he wanted a hug. I remained seated, and his arms dropped awkwardly to his sides. "I knew you'd do the right thing. Family has to stick together, right?" I gestured to the chair across from my desk. "Sit down, Dad, we have a lot to discuss." He sat, practically vibrating with anticipation. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out the envelope he'd been so eager to see. "Before I give you this," I said, holding it just out of his reach, "I want to tell you a story about what happened after you left." "After you left," I began, still holding the envelope just beyond his grasp. "Mom and I had exactly $247 in our checking account. Do you remember how much you took when you cleaned it out?" $42,000. Our entire savings." His face tightened, but he maintained his smile. "Emily, that's all in the past. We don't need to." "Oh, but we do." I cut him off, my voice steady. "Because what happened next is very relevant to what's in this envelope." I stood up, walking to the window. Seattle's skyline stretched before me, the Space Needle piercing through the clearing morning fog. Mom took a second job, night shifts at the diner. She was so tired she could barely stand, but she kept working because she believed in me, believed I could make something of myself. Turning back to face him, I continued. I worked 3 part-time jobs while studying engineering. Do you know what kept me going? Every time I wanted to quit, I'd remember how you said I'd never amount to anything without you. He shifted uncomfortably in his chair. I never said. September 15th, 2008, I interrupted. The last thing you said before walking out our door. "Good luck making it without me. You'll both come crawling back eventually." I smiled coldly. "I have an excellent memory for details, Dad. It's one of my best qualities." Moving back to my desk, I sat down and opened a laptop. "Would you like to know what else I remember?" "Every business you've run into the ground. Every woman you've married and left bankrupt. Every gambling debt you've accumulated." With each word, I pulled up documents on my screen, turning it to face him. His confident facade cracked slightly. "How did you?" "I've been watching you for 15 years, I said simply. "Every move, every scheme, every failure. I knew someday you'd show up here, thinking you could claim a piece of my success. So I made sure I was ready." His eyes darted to the envelope in my hand, then back to my face. "Whatever you think you know. I know about the money you owe to Marcus Chen," I said, watching him pale at the name. "No relation to me, unfortunately for you. I know he's given you until the end of the month to pay back the $2 million you borrowed. I know about the insider trading investigation that's about to break at your current company. I know everything, Dad." He stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "This is ridiculous. I came here to reconnect with my daughter, to make amends." "No," I said quietly. "You came here because you're desperate, because every bridge you've built on lies and charm is finally burning down around you. You came here thinking you could manipulate me one more time." I opened the envelope and pulled out a single sheet of paper. "This is a contract. It offers you exactly what you want: financial security, a clean slate. All you have to do is sign." His eyes lit up, greed overtaking caution. He reached for the paper, but I held it back. "But first," I continued, "you should know what it really means. This contract doesn't just give you money, Dad. It gives you a choice." I pressed a button on my desk, and Alice entered the office, carrying another set of documents. My father's eyes darted between us, confusion replacing his confidence. "Choice?" he asked, his voice wavering slightly. "Yes," I said, laying out both sets of papers. "Behind door number 1, you sign this contract. You get $5 million, enough to pay off Marcus Chen and start fresh. But in exchange, you legally forfeit any claim to Chen Tech, any right to contact me or my employees, and you agree to a complete non-disclosure agreement about our family history." He licked his lips nervously. "And door number 2. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "You walk away with nothing, and tomorrow morning, every news outlet in Seattle receives a detailed dossier about your colorful business history, including some very interesting documents about your current company's financial practices." "You wouldn't," he whispered, but we both knew he didn't believe that. Wouldn't I? I asked softly. You taught me well, Dad. Never leave anything to chance. Always have leverage. Those were your lessons, weren't they? He slumped back in his chair, the weight of realization finally hitting him. You planned this. All of it. The moment you walked into my office yesterday, everything was already in motion. I confirmed. The only question was whether you'd be smart enough to take the deal. Alice stepped forward, placing a pen on the desk between us. The choice is yours, Mr. Chen. But I should mention that the offer expires in exactly 10 minutes. My father stared at the pen, then at me, and I saw something I'd never seen before in his eyes. Respect. Not the fake pride he'd shown yesterday, but genuine recognition of what I'd become. You really are my daughter, he said quietly. No, I replied, my voice firm. I'm my mother's daughter. She taught me perseverance, integrity, and love. You taught me what happens when you lack all three. He picked up the pen, his hand trembling slightly. $5 million to disappear forever? To never contact me again. I corrected. What you do with your life after this isn't my concern, as long as you stay away from mine. As he signed the contract, I thought about Mom. She hadn't lived to see Chentech's success, but she believed in it, in me, until the end. This moment, this victory, was as much hers as mine. Alice quickly notarized the documents and handed my father a sealed envelope containing the wire transfer information. The funds will be available within 24 hours, she explained clinically. After that, any attempt to contact Ms. Chen will result in immediate legal action and forfeiture of the entire amount. He nodded, clutching the envelope like a lifeline. As security arrived to escort him out, he turned back one last time. Emily, Goodbye, Dad, I said, already turning back to my computer. I trust you can find your way out. After he left, Alice stayed behind, watching me carefully. Are you okay? I let out a long breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. I'm better than okay. For the first time in 15 years, I feel free. $5 million is a lot of money, she observed, even for Chentech. I smiled, thinking about what she didn't know yet. It's worth every penny to ensure he never comes back. Besides, I turned my laptop to show her the screen. The money isn't coming from Chentech. Her eyes widened as she read the display. Is that the algorithm I developed last year? I nodded. While we were having our little family reunion, it was completing a series of perfectly timed trades. We just made $12 million, more than enough to cover Dad's payoff and then some. Alice laughed, shaking her head in amazement. You really did think of everything. I had 15 years to plan, I reminded her. But now it's time to focus on the future. We have that green energy contract presentation this afternoon. As Alice left my office, I took one last look at the Seattle skyline. The morning fog had completely lifted, leaving the city bright and clear. It felt like a sign, the shadows of my past finally clearing, making way for whatever came next. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out the old shoebox of documents. All those years of tracking my father, collecting evidence, preparing for this moment, I didn't need any of it anymore. Picking up my phone, I called James. Could you have someone take this box to the shredder and then clear my afternoon schedule? I think it's time we had that staff appreciation lunch I've been promising. It was time to focus on the people who actually deserve my attention. My team, my friends, the family I'd chosen for myself. I'd spent enough energy on the past. The news of my father's sudden wealth and subsequent disappearance spread quickly through Seattle's business circles. Speculation ran wild. Some said I'd bought him off. Others claimed he blackmailed me. I let them talk. The truth was far more satisfying, but it was mine to keep. 3 months after our final meeting, I sat in my office reviewing Chentech's latest quarterly reports. Our renewable energy division had exceeded all projections, and the new government contracts were proceeding smoothly. Life had settled into a comfortable rhythm, free from the weight of waiting for my father to resurface. Ms. Chen. James appeared in my doorway. There's someone here to see you. She says she's your sister. I froze, my hand hovering over the keyboard. Sister? A young woman stepped into view behind James. She couldn't have been more than 20, with familiar dark eyes that made my heart skip a beat. Hi, she said nervously. I'm Grace. Grace Morgan. David Chen is my father. The world seemed to tilt slightly. Of course he had another family, another daughter. Why was I even surprised? Let her in, James, I said, keeping my voice steady. And hold my calls. Grace perched awkwardly on the edge of the chair my father had occupied 3 months ago. Up close, the resemblance was undeniable. She had his chin, his way of fidgeting when nervous. I'm sorry to show up like this, she began. I found out about you recently. Dad, he came home 3 months ago with a lot of money and a lot of secrets. Then last week, he disappeared again. Mom finally told me everything. I studied her carefully. Everything. About his other family, about you and your mom, about Chentek. She twisted her hands in her lap. I always knew he wasn't a good person, but I never knew the extent of it until now. Why are you here, Grace? I asked gently. She lifted her chin, and in that moment, she looked less like our father and more like someone determined to break free of this shadow. Because I'm starting college next semester. Engineering, actually. And I don't want his money. I don't want anything from him. I thought maybe you'd understand that better than anyone. I felt something shift inside me, not quite sympathy, but recognition. Here was another young woman determined to build her own path, to be more than David Chen's daughter. Where are you planning to study? I asked. I got into MIT, she said, a hint of pride breaking through her nervousness. But I'm still figuring out the financial aid situation. Mom's a teacher, and now with Dad gone again. I opened my laptop, typing quickly. MIT's engineering program is excellent. I almost went there myself, but couldn't afford it at the time. I turned the screen toward her, showing her Chentek's internship program details. We offer full scholarships to promising engineering students. The application deadline isn't for another month. Her eyes widened. Are you suggesting? I'm suggesting you apply, Grace. Like any other candidate, no special treatment. You'll have to earn it on your own merits. But if you're half as determined to succeed as you seem, I have a feeling you'll do just fine. Tears welled in her eyes. Why would you help me, after everything he did? Because you're not him, I said simply. Neither of us is. And maybe it's time we showed the world what Chen women can do when we support each other instead of letting him tear us apart. She wiped her eyes, straightening in her chair. I won't let you down. Don't worry about letting me down, I told her. Focus on not letting yourself down. That's the only standard that matters. After Grace left, clutching the internship application information like a lifeline, I walked to the window. The Seattle skyline had changed since I first started Chentek. New buildings, new dreams reaching toward the sky. I thought about cycles breaking, about turning pain into purpose. My phone buzzed. A text from Alice. Who was that? You looked deep in thought. I smiled, typing back. Someone who reminded me that sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about helping others rise above. That evening, I stayed late at the office, reviewing the latest prototype designs for our new energy storage system. The technology we were developing could revolutionize renewable energy accessibility in developing nations. It was exactly the kind of world-changing work I dreamed of doing back when I was working those 3 jobs to pay for engineering school. My desk phone lit up. James from the front desk. Ms. Chen, there's a package for you. Minutes later, I was staring at a small, worn envelope. The return address was from a law firm in Arizona, but I recognized my mother's handwriting immediately. She must have arranged for it to be delivered years after her death. With trembling fingers, I opened it. My dearest Emily, if you're reading this, it means you've achieved something remarkable enough to make the news, just like you always said you would. I asked my lawyer to hold this letter until then. I know your father's absence has been a wound that never fully healed, but remember what I always told you. Some people are meant to stay in our lives forever, and others are meant to teach us who we don't want to become. You were always stronger than him, smarter than him, better than him. Not because of his genes or his lessons, but because you chose to be. Every sacrifice, every late night, every obstacle you overcame, that was all you. I'm sorry I couldn't stay to see the woman you've become, but I know in my heart that you're magnificent. Remember that success isn't just about proving people wrong, it's about proving yourself right. All my love, Mom. I pressed the letter to my chest, letting the tears fall freely. After a moment, I picked up my phone and dialed the number. Grace, it's Emily. Listen, instead of waiting for the internship applications, why don't you come by tomorrow? There's someone I'd like you to know about. Her name was Sarah Chin, and she taught me everything I know about real strength. The sun was setting over Seattle. painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. From my office window, I could see the Chentech logo glowing on the building across the street. Not my father's name anymore, but a symbol of everything my mother and I had built from nothing. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about making someone pay for their mistakes. Sometimes it's about building something so magnificent that their absence becomes irrelevant. Sometimes it's about taking their greatest failure, abandoning their family, and turning it into your greatest triumph. Creating a new kind of family, bound not by blood, but by choice and determination. I looked at the photograph on my desk, my mother at my college graduation, thin but smiling, her eyes full of pride and love. Next to it, I placed Grace's MIT acceptance letter. Different paths, same spirit. The future was bright, and it belonged to us. The daughters who refused to let one man's failures define our destiny. That night, as I finally headed home, I thought about cycles breaking and new beginnings. About a young woman who walked into my office carrying the weight of a name she didn't choose, and walked out with the promise of a future she could build for herself. And I thought about my mother's words, proving yourself right. That's what this had all been about. Not the money, not the success, not even the satisfaction of outmaneuvering my father. It was about proving that love, determination, and integrity could build something stronger than any fortune or legacy. Tomorrow, I would start teaching Grace everything my mother taught me, and together, we would write a new chapter in the Chen family story, one where the daughters rose from the ashes of their father's failures and built something beautiful.
The acceptance letter from MIT's computer science program lay crumpled on our kitchen table, my father's coffee mug leaving brown rings on my future. Worthless, he shouted, his face turning that dangerous shade of red-eyed groan to fear. 4 years studying computers when you could be following your brother into medical school? Are you trying to embarrass this family? My mother stood by the sink, wringing her dish towel like she wished it was my dreams. Elena, please, think about our reputation. What will people say when they hear our daughter chose coding over medicine? I clutched my laptop, the one I'd bought with money earned from building websites for local businesses, like a shield. Computer science isn't just coding, Mom. It's artificial intelligence, data science, the future. The future. My father's laugh was cruel. The future is your brother Michael saving lives as a surgeon. The future is respect, prestige, something you can be proud of. Not sitting in a basement playing with computers. Michael, the golden child, watched from the doorway with that mix of pity and superiority he'd perfected over our childhood. That's right, Lena. It's not too late to apply to pre-med. I could put in a word at my school. I don't want to be a doctor, I said quietly but with steel in my voice. I want to build things, create things, change the world through technology. Change the world. My father threw his hands up. You sound like every other deluded teenager. You know what changes the world? Medicine, surgery, real science, not whatever this is. He grabbed the MIT letter, waving it like evidence in a trial. Full scholarship? Of course it's full scholarship. They're desperate for women in tech. It's not because you're special, Elena. It's because they need to fill quotas. That hurt. I'd spent years teaching myself programming, building increasingly complex systems, winning national competitions. But in this house, nothing mattered except the path they'd chosen. I'm going, I stated, surprising myself with my firmness. I've already accepted. The silence that followed was deafening. Then my father stood up slowly, his voice dropping to that quiet tone that was worse than yelling. If you choose this worthless degree over medicine, don't expect any support from us. Not a penny. Robert, my mother gasped, but she didn't disagree. Fine. I squared my shoulders, thinking of the savings account they didn't know about, filled with earnings from my freelance work. I don't need your money. You'll fail, Michael added helpfully. Tech startups fail all the time. Medicine is forever. I looked at them. My father with his rigid beliefs, my mother with her social climbing anxiety, my brother with his smug certainty, and made a decision that would change everything. Watch me succeed. That night, I packed everything I owned into my beaten-up Honda Civic. It wasn't much: clothes, my laptop, and most importantly, the external hard drive containing the prototype of what would become my future. My mother caught me at the door. Elena, please. We just want what's best for you. No, I corrected her gently. You want what's best for your image. She flinched but didn't deny it. 4 years later, I graduated from MIT with highest honors. My family didn't attend the ceremony. They were at Michael's white coat ceremony instead, posting proud photos on Facebook and Instagram. That was fine. I was too busy launching my first company. The idea had come to me during sophomore year. An AI-driven medical diagnostic system that could analyze symptoms and medical imaging faster and more accurately than human doctors. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was revolutionizing medicine, just not the way my family had wanted. My prototype caught the attention of major investors. By graduation, I had $5 million in seed funding. By the end of my first year out of college, MedAI was valued at $50 million. Michael, meanwhile, was still doing his residency, regularly calling our parents for help with his student loans. I kept tabs on my family through social media and occasional updates from my Aunt Sarah, the only one who'd supported my choice. I watched as they bragged about Michael's every achievement, from his first appendectomy to his chief resident position. "Your brother saved another life today," my mother's Facebook posts would glow. Nobody mentioned that my AI system was saving thousands of lives daily in hospitals across the country. 5 years after graduation, MedAI was revolutionizing healthcare. Hospitals using our system saw a 40% reduction in diagnostic errors. Treatment success rates increased dramatically. We were saving more lives than an army of surgeons. That's when the acquisition offers started coming in. Google, Apple, Microsoft, they all wanted MedAI. But I had bigger plans. Instead of selling, I took the company public. The IPO made headlines. MIT grads AI company valued at $4 billion. My face was on CNBC, Forbes, Bloomberg. The tech world couldn't stop talking about the 26-year-old woman revolutionizing medical diagnostics. My parents didn't call. Michael did, though. Not to congratulate me, but to complain that the hospital where he worked was forcing doctors to use MedAI's system. "It's replacing doctors' judgment with computers," he protested. "This isn't real medicine." I let him rant, thinking about the thousands of lives our system had saved, including cases where it had caught conditions human doctors had missed. 10 years after that kitchen table confrontation, MedAI was the global leader in medical AI. We'd expanded beyond diagnostics into treatment planning, drug development, and medical research. The company was worth over $20 billion. That's when MIT called. "We'd like to discuss a significant donation," the dean of engineering said, "and perhaps naming rights to our new AI and medical technology building." I thought about that crumpled acceptance letter, about my father's coffee stains on my dreams, about every dismissive comment and missed graduation. "I'm listening," I said. The negotiations were quick. A $50 million donation, the largest in the department's history. In return, the new building would be named the Elena Chin Center for AI and Medical Innovation. I had one condition. I wanted to choose the date of the opening ceremony. The dean agreed immediately. After all, who argues with a $50 million donor? I picked September 15th, the same day as my brother's hospital's annual gala, where he was supposed to receive an award for surgical excellence. My parents had been planning to attend for months. Then the invitations went out. Mine came from MIT directly with a personal note from the dean. My parents' invitation came from the hospital board, mentioning that attendance was highly encouraged, given the new partnership with MedAI. They had no idea the two events were connected. No idea that their worthless degree had built an empire. No idea that their daughter was about to show them exactly what success looks like. The week before the ceremony, I stood in my penthouse office, looking out over the Boston skyline. On my desk sat the latest Forbes magazine with my face on the cover. Elena Chin, the woman who changed medicine without ever wearing a white coat. My phone buzzed. It was my Aunt Sarah. "They still don't know," she reported, barely containing her glee. "Your mother's been complaining about having to miss Michael's award ceremony for some mandatory hospital event at MIT. I smiled, thinking about what was coming. "Are you sure about this?" Sarah asked softly. I looked at my reflection in the window, no longer the scared teenager clutching a laptop, but a woman who'd built something world-changing. "Absolutely," I replied. "It's time they learned what a worthless degree can do." The morning of the ceremony dawned bright and clear. I stood in my closet, considering my options before choosing a simple but elegant Alexander McQueen suit. No white coat needed. My phone buzzed with texts from the MIT coordination team. Everything was in place. The new building gleamed in the September sun, its modern glass facade covered by a massive drape that would be dramatically removed during the ceremony. Underneath, my name waited to shock my family into silence. "Your parents just arrived," Aunt Sarah texted. "Your mother's complaining about missing Michael's award ceremony. Your father keeps checking his watch." I smiled, picturing their impatience. They still thought this was just another hospital board obligation. They had no idea they were about to witness their worthless daughter's crowning achievement. The ceremony area was packed when I arrived through a private entrance. University dignitaries, tech industry leaders, and hospital administrators filled the seats. In the front row, my parents sat stiffly, clearly wishing they were at Michael's celebration instead. Michael himself sat next to them, having been strongly encouraged to attend by his hospital's chief of surgery. He was fiddling with his phone, probably drafting his unused acceptance speech for the award ceremony he'd had to skip. The Dean of Engineering approached the podium. "Today we celebrate not just a building but a vision. A vision that began in these very halls, when a young student dared to imagine a different future for medicine." My mother was checking her watch now. My father stared straight ahead, his face set in its usual disapproving frown. "This student went on to revolutionize healthcare through artificial intelligence," the dean continued. "Her company, MedAI, has saved countless lives and transformed medical diagnosis forever." I saw the moment my father's frown shifted to confusion. Michael's head snapped up from his phone. But perhaps most importantly, she proved that innovation in medicine isn't limited to those wearing white coats. That saving lives can come from unexpected directions, from those brave enough to forge new paths. My mother's face had gone pale. She gripped my father's arm. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our generous donor, MIT graduate and founder of MedAI, Elena Chin." The applause was deafening, but I heard nothing except my father's sharp intake of breath as I walked onto the stage. "No," I heard Michael whisper. "It can't be." I approached the podium, my heels clicking against the marble. Every eye was on me, but I only saw my family's shocked faces. 15 years ago, I began. I sat at my parents' kitchen table with an MIT acceptance letter. I was told that pursuing computer science instead of medicine was worthless. That I was choosing a worthless degree. The audience murmured. My father's face had turned that familiar shade of red. Today, MedAI's technology assists in over 10 million diagnoses per day. We've helped detect early-stage cancers that human doctors missed. We've identified rare diseases that might have gone undiagnosed for years. We've saved more lives through technology than I ever could have as a single doctor. I paused, meeting my mother's eyes. She was crying silently. This building represents more than just a donation. It represents validation for every student who's ever been told their dreams aren't good enough. Who's ever been pressured to follow a traditional path instead of blazing their own trail. Michael was staring at his hands, his chief surgeon's confidence completely deflated. The Elena Chin Center for AI and Medical Innovation will be a place where technology and medicine work together. Where we recognize that saving lives doesn't always require a stethoscope. Sometimes it requires a keyboard and the courage to defy expectations. I nodded to the crew waiting by the building. The drape fell away, revealing my name in gleaming letters against the glass and steel facade. The crowd erupted in applause. Cameras flashed. My father looked like he might pass out. After the ceremony, as people mingled at the reception, my parents approached cautiously. My mother spoke first. "Elena, we didn't know." "That's right," I cut her off quietly. "You didn't know because you never asked. Never cared. Too busy bragging about Michael's surgeries to notice I was transforming the entire medical field." "Princess," my father started, using the endearment he'd abandoned 15 years ago. "We were wrong. We see that now." "Now?" I laughed softly. "Now that my name is on a building? Now that I'm worth billions? Now that the medical community considers me a pioneer? How convenient." Michael stepped forward. "The MedAI system, it's actually amazing. I use it every day. It's saved so many of my patients." "I know," I replied. "I get the usage reports. Interesting how you never mentioned that in your rants about real medicine versus computers." "Elena, please," my mother pleaded. "Can't we start over? We're still family." "Family." I raised an eyebrow. Family supports each other. Family attends graduations. Family celebrates achievements instead of dismissing them. We made mistakes, my father admitted. Terrible mistakes. But we're proud of you now. Now doesn't erase then, I said firmly. Your pride means nothing to me anymore. I didn't build this company for your approval. I built it despite your disapproval. The dean approached, saving me from further conversation. Elena, the governor would like to speak with you. I turned to leave, then paused. By the way, Michael, about your award ceremony today? I bought the hospital last month. The board reports to me now. Enjoy your new AI-driven surgical protocols. The color drained from his face as realization dawned. His precious award ceremony hadn't been rescheduled because of a random board meeting. His little sister now owned the entire hospital system. The aftermath was exactly what I expected. My parents launched a full PR campaign to prove they'd always supported me. Old family photos appeared on social media, carefully cropped to hide the tension. Stories were rewritten, memories conveniently altered. We always knew Elena was special, my mother told anyone who would listen. We encouraged her interest in computers from the start. My father tried to leverage his connection to me in medical circles, bragging about his tech genius daughter to colleagues. Several politely informed him that I'd already told them the true story. Michael attempted damage control at his hospital, suddenly becoming MedAI's biggest advocate. My sister's system is revolutionary, he'd say, as if he hadn't spent years criticizing it. I ignored them all, focusing instead on expanding MedAI's reach. We launched new research initiatives, funded scholarships for unconventional students, and continued pushing the boundaries of medical technology. The MIT building became a symbol of innovation, producing graduates who merged technology and medicine in ways my family had once dismissed as worthless. I made sure every scholarship recipient knew the story behind the building's name. A year after the ceremony, my mother tried one last time to reconcile. She sent an email. "Darling, we miss you. Your father's heart hasn't been the same since that day. Can't we heal as a family?" I forwarded her email to my assistant with a simple reply. Run it through MedAI's diagnostic system. Apparently, guilt can manifest as heart problems. 2 years later, I received an invitation to Michael's hospital's 10th anniversary gala. The invitation highlighted their cutting-edge AI integration and partnership with MedAI's visionary founder. I sent back a brief response. Ms. Chin appreciates the invitation but must decline. However, she's pleased to hear that the hospital is finally recognizing the value of a worthless degree. Last week, I approved plans for another building at MIT, the Chin Innovation Fellowship Center. It will provide resources and support for students pursuing unconventional paths in medicine and technology. The plaque at the entrance will read, "For every student who's been told their dreams are worthless, your vision is priceless." My family wasn't invited to that groundbreaking ceremony. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong. It's succeeding so magnificently that their opinion becomes irrelevant. My name isn't just on a building. It's on research papers, medical breakthroughs, and patents that are changing the world. And that's worth more than any medical degree. Yesterday, I received another set of usage statistics. MedAI had helped diagnose over 100 million patients this year alone. Each diagnosis represented a life potentially saved or improved, not by a single doctor in a white coat, but by a worthless computer science degree and the determination to prove everyone wrong. I had my assistant forward the stats to my family with a simple note. "Still worthless." They didn't reply. They didn't need to. The building with my name on it speaks volumes more than they ever could.